I'm Joey Decosola, and this is the Late Hour at Riverside Brookfield High School. Joining me today on the show is Miss Sullivan, Miss Czajka, and Mr. Baldus. How you doing, Miss Sullivan?
So great to be with you today, Joey.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, and thanks to Mr. Prokes and his team, and Layne and Ethan and Nathan Hutchings. Thanks.
So we're going to go a little bit on your background before RB and all that. So
Okay.
You said that you were a Hope mentor.
Well, I was a Hope mentor at Riverside Brookfield for the past 6 years. The program has switched a little bit this past year. But yeah, so before I was at Riverside Brookfield, I taught after I graduated from Boston College at Fenwick High School, and then I transitioned into the private sector and worked as a corporate trainer for an IBM company.
So you said you attended Boston College.
I did.
What did you do there? What type of classes did you take?
Well, I attended Boston College. Most importantly, though, I attended Riverside Brookfield High School, right? So I graduated from here in '89, and I went to Chestnut Hill and majored in English and International Relations with a concentration in Spanish at Boston College.
Did you do any sports in college?
No, but I was involved in a lot here at RB. I was part of an intramural tennis program in college and club basketball, and then I was also in the yearbook in college, so I was one of the senior editors. But in high school, I was involved in a lot here at Riverside Brookfield. I was actually class president senior and junior year, and we have a big reunion coming up. So any of my classmates watching right now, be tuned in for next homecoming.
So were you a coach at Fenwick or at RB?
Well, I coached at Fenwick. I coached girls freshman basketball, and I coached girls varsity tennis and fresh soft boys tennis. And here at RB, I'm involved in the RBEF telethon and the Riverside Brookfield Educational Foundation, and then Hope Mentoring. And I'm also a part of the Homework Hangout that just started this year, and I'm really excited about it.
How long did you teach at Fenwick?
I was there for 3 years.
And then you transferred here to RB?
Well, no, and then I transitioned to the private sector. I worked for an IBM company and did corporate training for them. I actually went back to get my master's in teaching about 9 years ago. So I made the transition a little bit more official because my undergraduate degree was not in education.
Oh, so how long have you been teaching at RB for?
Well, I've been here for 6 years, but I did my student teaching here 7 years ago with Miss Harsey and Miss Wilmot.
What classes did you teach at Fenwick?
At Fenwick, I was in their English and World Languages department, just like I am here. So I taught, English 10. I've taught English 9. I have seniors this year. Joey is one of my star students this year, in contemporary literature. And I also teach Spanish here. I teach Spanish in the afternoon.
So what did you do for the private sector company? What did you have to train or teach over there?
That's a great question. I was involved in corporate training, and I worked on the Microsoft products and trained different employees at Abbott Labs and Chase Bank, and we had lots of clients, but what I did was I helped people understand the software programs, and Epic was another big computer program that was just being taught at some of the hospitals like Northwestern, which I was involved in that about 10 years ago. So again, it was training people on software programs.
So you worked at an orphanage in Guatemala, correct?
I did. After I graduated from college, I worked with Las Hermanas Escolares de San Francisco, and that orphanage was about an hour and a half outside of Guatemala City in an indigenous region of Guatemala.
How long did you do that for?
About 8 months I was there, and I started working with the sisters of the school sisters at St. Pius Church in the Pilsen area, and Father Dom is the pastor there, so I was involved in that.
Oh, so that must have been, so you're like an impact on those kids and stuff like that?
Yeah, I hope I was. I mean, it was an amazing program and lots of children there were in dire need of help. There's a big influence of Mayans in that region of Guatemala. So anyway, it was a powerful experience. It was a life-defining moment for sure.
Did you travel anywhere else to do anything like that?
Well, I lived in Barcelona in 1992, and it happened to coincide with the Olympics in '92. So I did some traveling in Europe then. I've worked on ecology tours in Central America and Costa Rica and El Salvador too. And that was not part of my experience, so working in Guatemala.
What was one of your biggest setbacks by doing all that stuff? Like being away from family or whatever?
Well, yeah, but I don't know if I would consider it a setback as much. It was just about learning about dealing with people and understanding different cultures, and it was an amazing opportunity.
Where did you learn to take Spanish? Because you say you know it pretty well, and it's kind of hard.
You know, I learned Spanish at Riverside Brookfield. I never had it before. My first teacher here was Senor Clifford, and it was my most difficult class at RB. Can you believe that I'm teaching it right now?
No.
But I just loved it. I loved the culture, and I love speaking in another language. And I just embraced it, and I feel like even though it was difficult for me at the time as a student, I made it into something that just hopefully means a lot to me and has affected my students as well in Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and 3.
Well, thank you for being on the show, Miss Sullivan. It was great having you.
Thanks
Thank you
for
very
having
much.
me, Joey.
And the Late Hour Show will be right back. Welcome back to the Late Hour at Riverside Brookfield High School. Our next guest is Mr. Baldus, a special education teacher at Riverside Brookfield. How you doing, Mr. Baldus?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Joel.
So starting out, what was your biggest impact on teachers, coaches, and family members in your life?
Well, I come from a family of teachers and educators. I have a father who was a teacher at a middle school level in Michigan for about 42 years. Grandfather, great-grandfather, they're all educators. I have uncles and aunts that are educators, and I have cousins that are all teachers or educators, and most of them are all in the state of Michigan, but it seems to be in our blood on both sides of my family.
What high school did you attend?
I went to West Chicago Community High School.
Who was your favorite teacher there and why?
Oh, a favorite teacher there? I'd actually say it would be a coach that I had. He was a big influence upon my life, and actually it's kind of unusual for some people to say that the best man in my wedding was the most impactful person in my life, and that was my high school coach. He was the best man in my wedding, so that was, to have a best man be someone that's the same age as your father is a little different than, say, most. It wasn't a buddy from high school or college or anything.
Which family member had the most influence and impact on your life?
Probably my grandfather on my mom's side. He was kind of the patriarch in our family. He set the standard, the mold expectations of everybody that went and grew up in our family. Owned a furniture store in a small town in Michigan, and ended up being a salesman, and worked really hard to provide everything for my mom and her siblings.
Did you always want to be a teacher when you were younger?
I guess growing up around teachers, it was kind of just, I was used to going to schools at a young age, being in classrooms. We just kind of was just being there all the time, and then seeing some of the experiences and having an uncle who was a coach, and then obviously going to school as a student, you kind of get a knack for it. I really didn't know about that what I wanted to do until I got into college and did some of my clinical hours and some of the placements in schools that I got to be a part of.
When you were a teacher at high school, did you want to be a basketball coach?
I went from playing in high school, playing in college. It just seemed to be a natural fit because I had just the impact that the coaches that I had in my life were upon me, that I wanted to kind of be that for some of the kids that I coached and interacted with on a daily basis in practice. So it just it just felt natural. Of course, I got invited to do that job as well from my old high school coach at a high school that he was coaching at Glenbard West.
What makes you a good teacher and or a good coach?
Connections with kids, or how you relate to them. I think it's the most important piece is to be genuine. Kids know that when you have their best interest in mind, and try to convey in them the some of the life experiences that I've had in my life. I didn't necessarily grow up in the best circumstances, a split family, which many of our kids that I have are going through as well, and just kind of relate some of the experiences I've had growing up to them to help them through maybe some tough times and situations that they're dealing with right now.
Have you had any students in your past or maybe present that have like came up to you or have like had you as like a good influence, have called you about that?
Sometimes you don't. I think you need to get some few years of teaching under your belt. Sometimes those kids won't really do it until they're older, and they come back and you get to see what they're doing. I think the biggest pride that you get as educators is to see what they do after high school's over and what they do in their lives, the families. I've been teaching 18 years, and I have kids that I taught that have families and are out doing really great things with their lives, and really a lot of them are giving back to some of the schools and things that they worked in or went to school at.
What keeps you going every day to do what you do?
The people that I work with, I think I love that the RB's got a great family feel to it. The kids is right next to my coworkers. I think the kids that we have at RB are genuine and are always striving to do the best they can. Some days, like we all have tough days, but I just love being able to work with different people and the kids. And the job that I have, I get to do some non-traditional things as opposed to just being in the classroom every day.
That's good. So did you grow up in Michigan?
I lived in Michigan until my parents got separated, and we moved here to Illinois when my mom got remarried. So I was a freshman when I moved to Illinois.
And what college did you attend at?
North Central College in Naperville.
And what was your education there? What did you want to get a degree in?
I minored in U.S. History and Chicago Studies, and then my secondary was in secondary education.
Did you coach at college or play at college?
I was on the team at North Central for 3 years. 1 year I took off to get some studies done, but I was a member of the basketball team.
What position did you play?
Small forward, probably, if I would say, a 3 or 4 maybe.
And the high school before you came to RB, were you a coach there as well?
Yes, I was at West Chicago Community High School. I was the head boys basketball coach there for 3 years. I've actually jumped around quite a bit in different schools in the area. I've coached at Hinsdale Central, Glenbar West, and Willowbrook High School as well.
What is the greatest moment that happened to you with coaching and teaching?
Oh, seeing students and players achieve a goal which they've worked really hard to get. It doesn't have to be championships. It doesn't have to be tournament. Sometimes it's just the little things that they've been putting their heart and soul into every day in practice, and they achieve that. It could be just a play, executing a play. It doesn't have to always be a win or a loss, but it's just achieving something that you've really worked hard for. That's rewarding to see.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Baldus, for being on the show. It was great having
Appreciate it.
you, and stay tuned for more Late Hour Show. Welcome back to the Late Hour at Riverside Brookfield High School. My next guest is Ms. Czajka, a computer science teacher at Riverside Brookfield High School. Hi, Ms. Czajka.
Hi, Joey. Nice to see you.
Thank you for being on the show. So, at school here, you are a computer science teacher?
Correct.
So why is that important?
So computer science is really part of every field. You guys use computers all the time, I'm sure, with TV and technology and doing your edits. But computer science has become part of almost every career nowadays. And so I think it's really important for students of this generation to leave with some computer science knowledge, because employers are really expecting you young people to know more than we do about computers.
What is the difference between AP Computer Science and Principles and AP Computer Science?
Sure. So we have 2 AP Computer Science courses. One of them is Principles. That's more of an introduction, and that gives the students a chance to learn a lot about not just programming, but how the internet works, cybersecurity, and how data travels. So it's more of an introduction. Computer Science A, AP Computer Science A, is more heavily focused on programming. So we expect our students to know a little bit of programming before they get in. So hopefully they've taken Principles or have had some other experience.
So you said that there's a new club. It's Girls That Code Club activities. What's that about?
So Girls That Code started a few years ago here, and it was started because there's a national movement to try to increase the number of females in computer science. Right now, less than 20% of all computer science jobs are held by females. And so worldwide, this is a movement. And so we wanted to try to do a little bit here. And some of the activities we've done so far, probably our most fun one has been homecoming games. So we try to do some games to help coordinate with student association at lunches to help raise money for whatever the cause is of that year. And we run some app games. This year we had an operation game that the students actually made in the club themselves. Then we also try to hold some events for Girl Scouts and bring in some younger girls as well.
Is computer science a large demand for kids to go into college after high school?
So there's a ton of jobs with computer science as the major, but there's also a lot of jobs that actually expect you to know some computer science or will pay you more. So we just saw some data that someone who has a marketing degree might average about $60,000, but if they have some computer science skills, that average goes up to $80,000 or $90,000.
So with computer science, do people work at companies like Microsoft, Apple, and stuff like that?
That's only just the obvious ones. So we have computer science people who work here at RB, like Mr. Fisher and Mr. Connors. We also have people who work in computer science really in hospitals, in all businesses. Marketing now is all digital marketing or mostly digital marketing, so we have more and more in all areas. Even in music, there is actually a lot of computer science that goes into it.
So you service projects for AP students?
Oh, yes. So we started AP with We I think 2 years ago now. We're piloting the program for the College Board. So our AP Computer Science A students are able to actually apply what they learned to create some type of service project at both a local level and a global level. And this way they get the opportunity to see how what we are using in class can actually be done for something, used for something positive in the world.
So you help coordinate a lot of fundraisers around here?
So probably the biggest fundraiser that I've been helping to coordinate has been related to the military football appreciation game. So Coach Curtin had approached me a couple years ago and said, we'd really like to have a military appreciation game. And so I said, let's try to make it a fundraiser too. And what we've made our beneficiary is the Hines VA Hospital. So this year it was really exciting. The boys on the football team sold wristbands that had duty, honor, and country on them. The cheerleaders sold yellow ribbons at the games. The Booster Club did some 50-50 split the pot and donated that money. Best Buddies donated money. And the teachers and faculty and staff actually had a red, white, and jean day. So the faculty donated money and were able to wear jeans on a given day and show some military pride with military colors. And all of that money ended up being over $2,000 this year that we were able to donate to Hines Hospital.
That's great. So you like to travel a lot, right?
I do. I love to travel.
Where did you go last October?
So just about a month ago, I was in Dubai. It's the first time I've ever been in the Middle East. I've been really fortunate. I taught math for years, but now I teach all computer science courses because the demand has grown. And one of the things I learned is computer science has wonderful opportunities, not just for the people who work in it, but for the teachers. So the College Board has asked me to go to different places to help teach teachers how to create computer science classes. So they sent me to Dubai in October, and I was able to work with teachers from the Middle East who want to start the computer science principles class. I did a similar thing last year in November in Singapore, so I've been very, very lucky.
It must be really hot out there in Dubai.
It was very hot.
And you also traveled to Ecuador?
Yes, so over the summer, the AP with We Service Project partners with an organization called We. And they are actually found in Canada. They're based in Canada, but they work in Canada, the UK, and the US. And they do work all around the world. And one of the places that they have, that they do a lot of work is in the Amazon in Ecuador. So they invited myself and Mr. Bonarigo as computer science teachers to come and see the work and the projects they've done with the people in the Amazon. So in order to get there, not only do we have to obviously fly, but then we stayed in Quito overnight, and then with about 20 other teachers. And then we had to take about an 8-hour bus ride, and then we had to actually get into canoes to get to the camp in the Amazon where we stayed. So we got to see classrooms, we got to meet teachers there, we got to see their new health clinic, and meet some of the farmers and the people of the Amazon communities.
So how computer science, like computers and a lot of technology in Ecuador or Dubai, do they have a lot of that?
So in Dubai, there's a lot of technology. It's very, very high tech. It's also very, there's a lot of work to make things with solar panels and huge amounts of architecture going on there, big buildings going up. In Ecuador, they definitely in the Amazon do not have as much access to computer science because they just really have limited access even to the internet. There's not much internet connectivity there. So, and I had a similar situation a few years ago. I was able to see their communities in Kenya and in the Masamara. There was the same issues. So they are looking at options for things they could do with places like Google to maybe get more remote locations to have some internet access so these young people can get access to what's going on outside of their small communities and see what goes on in other parts of the world.
Well, thank you, Ms. Czajka, for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for
sharing your
having me.
stories. This has been the Late Hour at Riverside Brookfield High School. Thank you for everyone who was on it. I'm Joey Decosola, and we'll see you next time.